Gurmahagat Ukran Balda Quishti Naridun is more an Unardum and Tursuk Fee Dully Polish Fragrak Tredola Agus Investuk a queer Ivoire Laoghaire in you. Vi dispiracht ma a gwyn I commission econ agus trial may moran the Moltain Naval and Hogan Sanarav. While the Trade for All strategy is not exactly revolutionary, it is indeed a welcome document and one that will provide a decent basis for all trade negotiations over the next 5 years. It is clear that this document pays welcome attention to many of the criticisms made towards the Commission through the TTIP negotiating process while using the Korean trade negotiations as an obvious best practice example. The Committee of the Regions, as it did in the case of both TTIP and TISA, is constantly asking for increased transparency in trade negotiation, for the recognition of the need for regional parliaments to be consulted on trade agreements before the finalisation of these agreements, for a clear distinction of what trade agreements cover, for the need to make sure that trade agreements do not limit the right of regional and local authorities to regulate and decide how public services should be provided, and for regional impact assessments to be carried out before trade agreements are concluded. This final point is especially important as increased trade will affect different regions in different ways and as it is important for regions to prepare for these changes. The territorial dimension of the strategy must consist of ensuring that local and regional authorities across the EU will fairly benefit from growth and investment opportunities expected to be generated by free trade agreements and trade agreements in general. In addition, there should be geographical diversification in trade agreements, as prioritising emerging growth areas is the lifeblood of open free trading economies, so wholly dependent on export markets for jobs and growth. Trade agreements should provide equal opportunities across EU member states and within the regions, including outermost regions and overseas territories of the EU. All relevant sectors, including industry, agriculture and services, should be in a position to benefit from trade agreements. However, it is essential that in relation to investment agreements, there are commitments to ring-fence legitimate public policy measures against challenges presented by free trade agreements, particularly in legitimate public policy measures like the introduction of plain packaging for cigarettes to reduce tobacco consumption. Separately, there is an important need to facilitate and improve the integration of European companies in global value chains, in particular small and medium-sized enterprises. The Trade for All strategy makes welcome and continued reference to the role of SMEs. SMEs are the backbone of local and regional development and therefore to EU cohesion as a whole. Cross-compliance costs to international standards are usually higher for SMEs than for multinational corporations. It is welcome, in that respect, the fact that the Commission gives SMEs an important place in its strategy by highlighting the difficulties they may face with regard to trade liberalisation and asks that local and regional authorities are consistently involved in the dialogue foreseen to take place between the Commission and the Member States on SMEs' special needs. Trade, like in 1951 for coal and steel, but now for all products and services from Dublin to Dubai or Berlin to Beijing, Ballahadreen to Banner, will be what forges the continent forward and continue to preserve peace in our union. Defeating the type of terrorism we have seen in Paris and indeed in Brussels cannot be done by trade alone, but closing borders and resorting to protectionism of old will only serve to worsen our economic progress and ferment the social conditions that can allow terror to blossom. In my own country, our economic progress over the last 40 years is attributable almost entirely to our ability to trade with foreign countries, both within and outside the European Union. Our strengthened economic and trading relations with the UK, as a result of our membership of the European Union, made the negotiation of peace in the face of terror a possibility in Northern Ireland. To conclude, this opinion was the product of many meetings and hours of work, including an appearance before the European Parliament's Inter Committee. I'm very grateful to Robert and all the Econ Secretariat of the Committee of the Regions, to my expert James, to Vasilius and James in the and all the EPP advisors, as well as to Sarah and Ronan in the Irish Regions Office. There are many amendments to my opinion today that we can discuss and debate, but it is my express hope that the final version of this document sends a clear message to the European Commission, the European Parliament and Member State governments that the advancement of free trade across the globe is not something to fear, but it is in fact the means upon which we can provide our stability in the Union. Thank you very much.